the Office of Environmental Management, and you are at the SWEPT What's New, Recent and Future Enhancements webinar. We're just going to give a minute or so for everybody to get connected, and then we'll get started. We're going to be recording today's session, so anyone who wasn't able to attend will get a link to a recording. Like we've had several more folks join us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, we are going to be recording this session, so it'll be available for everyone. And today, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about what's new in SWEPT, what's coming soon. There'll be an opportunity for questions at the end of the webinar. Feel free to type them in the box as we go, and we'll try to get to them all at the end. I also want to say that, you know, we're here at the help desk working constantly on making improvements to SWEPT. We get requests for enhancements, we get bug fixes, a constant stream of things that are getting done. And the purpose of this webinar is to kind of catch everybody up on what's changed, what's new, and also recognize that we want to try to communicate some of these changes earlier. So you will be seeing more of these meetings coming up, and we will try to get out in front and let you know what's coming and what's new in SWEPT. So with that, we'll jump in. One of the things that you'll see new in SWEPT is the public hearing certification form. So this is an electronic version of the public hearing certification form that's described in the PD&E manual. You can create one of these forms using the Create button under the Public Involvement Public Hearing Certification folder in your project documents listing in SWEPT. You can also create one through the left-hand navigation menu, the Public Hearing Certification menu item, and there you'll have to key in the FM number. If you're already on your project page, you can use the Create button to create that. It'll open up a form, and the form has been simplified by the Office of Environmental Management. It simply certifies the public hearing was conducted on date at time for the project, and you attach the transcript and attest that it's a full, true, and complete transcript of what was said at the hearing, and put in the title of the DOT representative who conducted the public hearing and will sign the certification. We've gotten some feedback on this already. Some confusion about whether a name or a title goes in the box. I think we are going to be enhancing this form a little bit. There will be a pull down menu selection instead of just a free text box where it'll list the folks who normally would fill this form out, which would be either the project manager, district environmental manager, or project development manager. A data entry person can also start the form, let's say upload the transcript and select the appropriate person, and then send along to that person for their certification. Or the project development manager, for example, can simply fill the form out, upload the transcript, and certify. Comments are optional, and once it is certified, a PDF will be generated and put into the project file. It will not be sent to EDMS automatically, but you can do that at your option. It will be sent automatically on the next approval, let's say if the environmental document is approved or reevaluation is approved, then all PDFs in the file that have not been sent to EDMS will be sent automatically. Next, we have an enhancement to the project description import. Previously, when you set up your projects and put in an ETDM number, it would go ahead and pull in the project description from ETDM. That project description may not have always been the brief 1 to 2 paragraph description that we're looking for in SWEPT, or it may have been out of date. So now it's a button. It will not automatically import from ETDM. The other thing it will do when you click that button is if you have more than one ETDM number associated with your project, it'll give you a choice, and you can choose either project description to import, or you can just cancel and import nothing. Another new piece we've rolled out recently is editing of basic project information on the project page. And that corresponds to these edit buttons that you see on the screen. And so here you see edit buttons for the FM numbers, the project description, the ETDM numbers, the district project team, and then coming soon down here at the bottom, the local agency program information we'll talk more about later. And so what happens when you click those edit buttons, the edit district project team, anyone who's currently on the project team can edit the district project team and add additional editors who can make changes to the project file. The project manager can be changed, and also the district environmental manager is also able to edit the project team. So as you have new staff coming on board or leaving, you can make those changes here on the project page. That will give those individuals access to upload files to the system for that project, as well as complete forms in SWEPT. With the FM number editor, you can add related FM numbers. If you need to change the primary FM number of the project, which normally would be the original PD&E FM number, that's still going to be a help desk call, but you can add one or more related FM numbers right there on the project page using the dialog. You can also edit the project description, and that's that brief 1 to 2 paragraph description. Click the edit button and a dialog will open. You'll have a rich text editor and can edit the project description. The ETDM project numbers can also be added, removed using the edit button and dialog that appears. And again, when you add these ETDM numbers, it will no longer automatically import or affect your project description like it was doing previously. Now it will just add the ETDM number. If you want to pull in the project description from ETDM, you'll do that through the basic project setup and the import button that we saw earlier. Also new on the project page, as well as on your environmental documents, we've added support for additional file types. Initially, we just supported Word documents, PDFs, and some image file formats. You're now able to upload additional image formats, Excel, Zip, AVI. Some of you have recordings in AVI format or MP4 recordings of public meetings, for example. WMV is another rich media format, and then PowerPoint. So all those formats are supported, and you can upload them to the project file. And another new feature having to do with project documents is we've enabled the zip button in more places. So in particular on type 1s, NMSAs, the type 2 form, as well as reevaluations, there is a zip button that will be enabled. You click the zip button, and it does take some time depending on how many documents are in your file or attached to the environmental document, but it will create a PDF of, in this case, the type 2, and also include all the supporting documents. And then a zip will download, and if you open that zip, you'll see the files available there. So it saves a little bit of time on having to download individual files, and can be distributed outside of SWEPT. Moving on to project document folders, we've enabled that for all project types now, including type 1s, NMSAs, SEERs. This is similar to what you already had available for the higher level documents, type 2s, EAs, and EISs. We have developed a standardized folder structure for those lower level and documents and SEERs. And so here's an example for a type 1. Before, you would just see the type 1 and all the supporting documents in a table. Now they're organized into folders. The other thing you can do, which is not actually showing on this screen capture, but for those of you who are on the project team, you will have upload buttons. So you'll be able to upload additional files to your project file for type 1s, NMSAs, and SEERs. As those files become available, additional correspondence, whatever the case may be. And moving on to updates to the Type 1 CE checklist, there have been several changes recently, some corrections and some validation, stricter validation, so I want to highlight those. Particularly, question 5 now, wild and scenic rivers. If you choose either Northwest Fork of Loxahatchee River in D4 or Wekiva River in D5 as being adjacent or intersecting the project, it will require you to contact the Office of Environmental Management, your PDC representative, and document the date of coordination in order to process. On question 6, which is Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act, you are required now to contact OEM and document the coordination when it's a may affect, likely to adversely affect response. And many of you who do these often may have noticed last week when these changes initially rolled out, there were even more places to document coordination after some discussions with OEM that has been put back to only the required ones. And so what you see here matches what's in the manual and what's been discussed with the project delivery coordinator. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact your project delivery coordinator or the help desk, and we can help you answer those. On question 7, which is section 4F, again, contacting OEM is required for exception or exemption response, as well as the de minimis response. And then on question 8, contacting OEM is required and required to be documented on determination of adverse effect. The other fix to question 8, we had the first option as one sentence, no historic or archaeological resources present within the APE, and then it continued pursuant to, after discussions with the PDCs and looking at the manual, it was intended that pursuant to section 106 PA was supposed to be on a new line, not part of the first option. And the next 3 options are below and pertain to the pursuant to the section 106 agreement. So that fix is now in place. There were a couple of other validation fixes on the type 1. I think one that's come up and just want to point it out is on the contamination question. You are required to provide both an attachment with appropriate documentation as well as a comment. That is now in place. And then on the section 4F on the programmatic response. Previously, it would prevent you from processing as a type 1 if it was a C26 through 28 or D-list project. Now that's any C or D-list project, if it's programmatic section 4F, it can be saved but not approved as a type 1. Environmental certification approval notifications are new. You may have seen these over the last couple of months. This is something the districts had asked for, and we provided, and that is a notice when the environmental certifications are approved. Here's an example from District 5. You get a notice that certification's been approved. This is both for federal and state certification, a link to the certification PDF, and all the information about the approval. Moving on to other updates, we have done some editorial updates to the scope of services tool. These are fairly minor, but just want to point them out. They were in response to feedback from the districts who wanted to show that we've done those, and so there were some hyphenation changes. Sub-consultants was hyphenated. It was the casing was all caps, so now it's consistent, lowercase, not hyphenated. So I think that was important in that document. Also in the PDF of the scope of services tool, there was some inconsistent formatting with the font sizes that has been cleaned up. Along the same lines, in the reevaluation form PDF, last time we met, we talked about some changes to the reevaluation form, and we had yes, no, YN showing underneath each of the reevaluation type boxes, depending on what the type of reevaluation was. Those have been changed to check boxes to make them more easily understood. We've also done some cleanup on the formatting. There were some words running together, various other formatting fixes that have been done on the reevaluation form PDF. So those are all in place. Okay, so that concludes what's new in SWEPT. We're going to move on to what's coming soon. I mentioned earlier editing LAP information. You'll be able to do this from your project page, where you can say whether the project is a local agency program project or not, who the LAP agency is. If the LAP agency is not listed, we're going to have the current list, but if for some reason we don't have that LAP agency, you'll be able to add the agency. It will pull up whether the agency is already PD&E LAP certified or will need to be PD&E LAP certified, and then you'll be able to select whether whether DOT will be completing the NEPA document or the local agency with FDOT oversight. I believe once these are in place and the LAP information has been added to the project, you will also see the LAP coordinator information, contact information listed on the project page as well. Another new item coming soon in the next couple of weeks is going to be the ability to create environmental certifications for pre-SWEPT projects with some limitations. What this is really for is for Type 2s, EAs, EISs that had been approved prior to implementation of SWEPT, and you're needing to complete a certification, but you haven't gotten to the point of doing a reevaluation yet. You'll be able to complete those certifications in SWEPT, as well as SEERs, which obviously are done outside of SWEPT. You'll be able to complete the state environmental certification for those. You can still manage your project documents for SEERs in SWEPT, but the approval happens outside now you'll be able to also complete the certification for those. We are working on the ability to do the certification for reevaluations that occurred prior to SWEPT, but some of the information that's on the certification comes from the reevaluation form, so it's going to take a little more work for us to get to that point. There'll be some more questions and so forth to answer in order to complete those type of certifications, but that will also be coming in the future. So this is showing the state certification. Both of these will be available in the left menu, state environmental certification, and then environmental certification for federal project. And then the final coming soon enhancement. This has been a little bit of a pain point for folks, and we've heard you, and we're working on making that go away, which is access to SWEPT files by folks within FDOT who don't necessarily have a SWEPT login. And here's an example. There's a type 2 document. It's the checklist form. Let's say it's an ERC or it's an EDMS. There's links to supporting information. Folks need to be able to access those documents, but they may not have a SWEPT login. We have a solution. It is working its way up through testing to allow anyone who's on the DOT network to be able to access these types of attachments, these links that you see under supporting information without requiring a SWEPT login.
And you mentioned ERC. This is Pete. Sorry, I came in a little late. But it would also work in PSEE and things like that, so that approved documents, once they ended up in PSEE and it has all the supporting documents, if someone down the chain or someone else in the department needed to click on the link to see the supporting information today, it would take them to a SWEPT screen, ask them for a username and password, because when the document is saved, the links are not updated when they're shifted over into other environments. That'll be fine going forward because those links will remain valid. You'll be able to click on them. It'll open up the document and will not require additional information. For those on the FDOT network, the other note with that is, so if you're on a RAS, your consultants are on the remote access network and they're getting into the department, that appears as though they're on the network themselves, and they should have 0 incident.
Thank you, Pete. One note is any confidential attorney work products, which is one of the things you can designate on a file in SWEPT, which typically wouldn't be attachments to I don't think, to a document like this, but those are going to be explicitly, you'll have to have a SWEPT login, you'll have to be on the project team. Those are still going to be locked down, but I think 99% of your attachments, this will allow those folks to have access. So that concludes the what's new and coming soon. We have a little bit of time for questions, and we'll be happy to stay longer if there are more questions. Dean, do we have any questions?
Yes, we have a question here. Where can I find the Word document for the scope of service?
Okay. So I think there's a couple.
You go out to the design page. There's a link down there to download, as well as when you're on the scope itself, right?
Yes. I think it's under production support.
Sounds right. Try to navigate to it. I know this is where Victor and Martha and all the rest of these guys provide it from. But navigate to the location where all this stuff lives, along with the other detailed information about it.
So on the DOT website, production support.
There you go. Yeah, right there.
Under design scope of services, we've got the scope of services page, And here you'll find both the instructions to prepare the scope of services as well as the standard scope of services for PD&E studies. This is in a PDF format, but I believe we have provided the Word version of this as well to folks. So if you do need that, just send an email to the help desk and we can get that to you.
Yeah, because that was a question that came up during this discussion. Dean, when we follow up with the recording and its location and stuff, let's also make sure we include a link to this page that allows the folks that attended this to be able to have a quick link that'll take them right to where all this information is located. We have any more questions?
We have one here. What specific contamination documentation are you looking for?
What did we add on the contamination part?
What's new is before it allowed them, I believe, to either attach a document. The comment may have, the instruction was always to provide appropriate documentation and I believe it says something like summarize in the comment. And I think the instruction was there, but it was only actually requiring the attachment. Now it requires both an attachment and a comment.
Okay, so then going to the question of what specific contamination document are you looking for, I would point you to your local PDC. I suspect that the documentation for that would be expected in that location would be clearly based on the unique instances of what's going on with that specific project. Not having any of the PDCs in the room now or any of the environmental process or program administrators in here, I wouldn't want to speak on their behalf. So instead, and I think that came from District 6, just call Shireen and talk to Shireen and or Katasha or Margie. I can't remember. I think it might be Margie for that. But I think the documentation is very specific to what's going on with that project and what level of information they'd be looking for. Do we have any more questions, Dean?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Let's see. So it's 3:29. We've got about another minute or two. We'll stay on for just a couple seconds to see if other folks want to take the time to send us some more questions. We're happy to answer them. If in the next couple minutes we don't see any, we'll sign off. I just want to thank everybody for participating in the What's New. It's important for us. There's lots of changes all the time, and we want to always provide mechanisms to make sure that our user community and our districts and everybody who's participating in the process have an opportunity to see what the proposed changes are. They're not even proposed, to see the changes that are shifting the production, to provide some context about what these things are, so that when you encounter them in the real world and using the SWEPT application, you have the ability to recognize, hey, I've seen this before, I know what this is, and this is what the intent is. In the background, you see Mike went specifically back to the question and highlighted the idea, provide a brief summary in the text below, attach appropriate documentation. Again, that relates back to what is appropriate documentation. I point you back to the folks that you deal with and think about your unique project and what you and they want to accomplish within that particular scenario. And I don't know that I want the tech team to provide that answer because I don't think it's appropriate. So if you want to sign off, you're welcome to sign off. We're not seeing any other questions and responses, but I just want to let you guys know we appreciate everything. We continue to work on enhancements. We hear the enhancements from you guys as well as the staff here. Keep those things coming. Everything we build for you guys or to facilitate the process, or we have a requirement in the MOU and we want it to be the best system that it can. And we've got the time, energy, and resources to do that. So just keep it up for us. Okay, still not seeing anything else. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you later.